Let's all right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, good morning, hopefully not good evening for everyone. I know folks from various time zones, they probably must be on this call. So, welcome to our maiden session from Tana Leadership Academy. It's a career day session from Tana Leadership Academy. So, just a couple of quick things. I'll quickly cover a little bit about Leadership Academy background and how it started and all that. And then, I'll talk about some basic logistics, and then I'll pass it on to, Tana President Anjay Garu and then Tata President Rajesh to briefly address. And then we'll turn over to the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll start the actual panel discussion. So just a little bit of a background about Tana Leadership Academy. We originally started this as a Tata, which is our local organization, Triangle Area Telugu Association. We started this in 2019, between me and Sudhakar Pavada and Srinivas Saneti. I think we started this as founding members here. Ever since, I think for the last 2 to 3 years, we've organized a number of programs, and these programs are very well received locally. And our main goal is to see if we can, provide education in areas where maybe some of the schools don't cover or whatever to our kids. That would give them the edge in their college applications, and also help develop them as future leaders. So we have done various programs, and one of the things that really caught our eye is one of the Tana Social Services Coordinator. They reached out to us last year, and they've asked us to do a program on Python programming. So we usually do that locally here, and when we do that, we get anywhere between 30 to 40 to 50 kids attending. And when we did that with the Tana platform, we had nearly about 550 kids join the program. So that sort of opened up our eyes, and I said, hey, like, it's the same content that we're delivering, and why not we just extend this to all the kids across the nation, so that it benefits everyone, benefits a lot more people. So that's how I think we've reached out to Suresh, and Suresh is our local Tana executive. So, and Suresh and myself, and we reached out to Anjay Garu, and he encouraged us to just use this platform to see if we can just deliver the same quality programs, to all the kids across the nation. So that's how we started. So that's a little bit of a background. And in terms of the logistics today, we have. Let me first quickly introduce a TLA core team here. So we have Sudhakar Pavada. He's one of the co-founding members of Leadership Academy, and we have Srinivas Saneti. He's another member. So three of us. We usually we recruit others, and we reach out to the people, and set the course in terms of, I think, what to deliver as programs for the Leadership Academy. So I'll let them introduce themselves. I think when Sudhakar, he's going to lead the panel today, so he's going to moderate the panel today. I think when it's time, I think Sudhakar probably say a few words about himself at the time. And a couple of housekeeping items. Today, I think we are in a webinar mode. It's not a truly webinar, but we are asking all the panelists we made all the panelists as co-hosts so that they can mute and unmute themselves. But the rest of the folks who are participating, participants, they will be on the mute for the session. So once the panel discussion is complete, I think we have a Q&A session. I think we'll ask the folks to raise their hand. Use the Zoom meeting has a raise hand feature. They can raise the hand, and if they cannot find it, they can also type the question into the chat window. So one of us will monitor that, and then we'll relay that to the moderator so that he can ask the question for you. Or we'll also encourage you to unmute yourself at the time, and then ask the question, and then mute yourself back again. So that is that. That being said, I'd like to recognize a few people who have joined the session. Tana Leadership, I think there are several. I see several folks from Tana Leadership, including Anjay Chaudhary Laugaru and Suresh Kakarla, and we have some folks from Charlotte and other areas. They've joined, and our services coordinator Raja Kasukurti, he's on vacation, so he couldn't join us today, but he passed on the baton to Rajesh to run the Zoom meeting for us. So he's our Zoom admin today, as well as Rajesh Yarlagada. He's our Tata president, our local organization. He's the current president of Tata. So, and also various Tata BOD members, they are also in the session. Again, thank you all for joining the session today. We are really looking forward to a great interactive session, and we have a lot of very well-rounded panelists here. So, and we're hoping for a fun-filled session. So, with that said, I would like to request our Tana President Anjay Chaudhary Laugaru to say a few words.
Thank you, Murthy garu. Can you hear me good, Andy?
Yes, we can hear you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, my apologies. I'm not in a comfortable position. I'm driving from Raleigh to Atlanta, so please excuse me. That's right. And a warm welcome to all of you. As Murthy garu said, it's probably good afternoon and probably good morning to some of the folks. But my heartfelt greetings to all of you. And having said that, the leadership academy, the background, I think Murthy garu was pleased. And I was really excited when the proposal came from Murthy garu and Suresh. So definitely, I promised from the Tana side that we would render unconditional support. And that's how the first program commenced. This is just a start, beginning, and we would promise that we would work collaboratively to bring more programs that cater to the next generation, especially. And let me see the topic career day. So to explore all the possible options that are in front of us and how to avail those opportunities. So I think you all will have definitely a great session. And my heartfelt thanks to Murthy garu, Srinivas garu, and Sudhakar garu. All these three, in addition to these founders, Suresh Kakarla from Flagship Leadership, and also Rajesh Yarlagada, our local Tata president. So without all these conditions support, we could have planned for this session. And also, Community Service Coordinator Raja Kasukurti is always in forefront of bringing many programs that cater to the need of the people, especially Indians and Telugu people in general. So you said that you don't want to take more time. And then lastly, of course, I have to recognize the speakers for today. So heartfelt thanks once again to Tana for coming forward for this noble cause. Thank you all, and you all have a great session. Back to you, Murthy.
Thank you very much, Anjay garu, and I would say safe driving. You're driving and talking, so just be careful. So thank you very much. And now I would like to request Tata President Rajesh Yarlagada to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you all. Thanks to all the panelists who came forward to share their expertise to all the students and also to parents. First of all, as Murthy garu said, this is Rajesh Yarlagada, President of Triangle Area Telugu Association of North Carolina, which we call as Tata of NC. Whoever joined from local Raleigh probably know why it is called Triangle Area. Triangle represents Cary, Morrisville, and Durham cities. This organization is 30 plus years old with many cultural and community service programs. One of the recent and most popular service leadership academy, which started in 2019 in Tata NC under leadership of Murthy garu, now expanded to national level, which is a good sign that shows how important or useful this service is to current youth and also to parents. I would say great achievement from our local leadership academy team, Sudhakar garu, Srinivas garu, Madhu garu, Kiran garu, obviously Murthy garu for working hard and making it to a national level. I know everyone is eagerly waiting for a panelist to hear from them various career options which help both the students and parents. Yeah, let's start. Thank you, and also best of luck to all panelists and everyone. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you very much for that message. And I'd like to also say our current Vice President of Tata, who's Kiran Kakalamuri, I think, who's probably in India right now. He's not with us. He's instrumental in coordinating a lot of logistics, for TLA program from Tata's side of things. So, thanks to Kiran as well. So now let's move on to the introductions of the panelists. So I will call out each of the panelists' name, and if you could just take 3-4 minutes, however long you need, to really talk about yourself, and let folks know about your background, and give them a good 360 view of who you are, so they know, I think, who to ask the questions. So let me first start with Rao Harkara. Rao, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Murthy. Thank you also rest of the team, Tata as well as Tana teams. Truly appreciate, and it's an honor to be part of this wonderful panel and then leadership team in here. First of all, to start with, as Murthy said, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I know we are in multiple different zones. I am Madhav Rao Harkara, go by Rao Harkara to be shorter name like anybody else. I'm a senior vice president at Fidelity Investments. I lead the health and welfare technology as well as Medicare technology organization. I know it's mouthful, we'll go more details into it. I know Murthy asked me to go into a little bit background on my 360-degree view. From my education perspective, I'm a software engineer. I graduated with a computer science degree from India, and then worked in a company called Satyam Computers in Hyderabad for a couple of years, and then moved to Boston, Massachusetts in '94. And then 95 onwards, I started working for Fidelity Investments. And subsequently, I did my master's in business administration from Babson College in Massachusetts. Regarding what I'm passionate about and then what do I do, majority of you, most probably the parents as well as kids, may know about Fidelity. Fidelity is synonymous to asset management. Most probably everybody thinks that, oh yeah, Fidelity is in asset management, mutual funds on this one. We are a much more diversified company offering 401k services, pension plans, as well as personal brokerage. And then most recently, we got into healthcare. So now, what is the relation of health and wealth and important to Fidelity on this? So if you take a look at it, healthcare is one of the most pressing issues both employees as well as employers face right now in the United States. And we spend around 20% of our GDP on healthcare. So the healthcare costs continue to really raise more than the inflation at one point of time. And a couple other things I want to point out is 90% of employers, if you take it, are unsure of, are they offering the right healthcare plans to the customers? And then 60% of employees, when we go and then choose our healthcare plans, they're not sure whether we pick the right plan because the complexity is in it. At Fidelity, this is where we're trying to do, is bring in that power so that we can allow the employees and employers to offer the best plans and employees to choose the right plans that fits their needs. That's where I'm very passionate about on how technology is going to transform healthcare, and then really to see much more in the future on this. So thank you, Murthy.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. I think that's an excellent introduction of yourself. Appreciate it. So now I would like to call out Rajawatlamuri.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you from Durham, North Carolina. Thank you so much to all the organizers for inviting me to be on the panel. I'm Rajawatlamuri. I am currently the Deputy Director of the Division of Child and Family Wellbeing at the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services in Raleigh. It is the state agency that is charged with protecting the health, safety, and well-being of all North Carolinians. Just to back up a little bit, I grew up in North Carolina, was born in Texas, but moved to North Carolina when I was 10 years old. So had my formative years of middle, high school here. Went to UNC Chapel Hill for my undergraduate degree and studied health policy and management and in the School of Public Health. And after that, worked in a healthcare consulting company for a couple of years, where I worked on performance improvement for hospitals and physician groups. So those were my clients. And then I went back to grad school because I really missed public policy type of work, work that was thinking about the broader benefit of citizens and their health and well-being. So I came back to North Carolina, went to Duke University to get my master's in public policy. And, you know, I had spent a lot of my time in healthcare and health policy, and knew that I wanted to explore working in the public sector in government. And so I took a job at the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services shortly after I graduated with my MPP at the Medicaid agency. So you just heard Madhav speak about the importance of healthcare, and Medicaid is a really critical government provided health insurance for 1 in 5 North Carolinians and many folks across the country as well. And it provides health insurance to individuals who are pregnant, children, folks with disabilities, and the elderly. And so I went to work at the North Carolina Medicaid agency, where I led a couple of strategic initiatives for close to 2 years, and then got recruited to be the chief of staff to Susan Gale Perry, who is the chief deputy secretary at our department in Raleigh. And little did I know that I would be working on the COVID response for the next 18 months. So I spent a good year and a half working on our state's COVID response from a number of different initiatives, ranging from how we supported kids and families while schools were closed, to planning for school reopening in the fall, which I'm sure many of you have directly experienced how the firsthand challenges of remote learning, and then was really involved with our vaccine distribution and rollout and the implementation of that in North Carolina. And then I, in last November, transitioned to my current role as the Deputy Director of this new division of Child and Family Wellbeing, which we just established in January. And it's really aiming to provide holistic services for children and families across our state. And in my role, I oversee 3 major nutrition, education, and support programs. They are SNAP, WIC, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which provide really essential food benefits and nutrition education and healthcare referrals to many families across our state. So I'm happy to speak more in detail about any of that. And thank you so much for having me on the panel.
Great, thank you, Madhu. I think just so others know, Madhu is also a Moorhead scholar. She forgot to mention that. And also, I'm not sure who you really rooted for in the recent NCAA tournament. Duke.
Definitely UNC. There's no question. Have to root for your alma mater. I was very pleased that we beat Duke.
That's right. I know you have affiliation to both the schools, so but UNC is at your heart. That I know. Thank you, Madhu. So I'd like to call out Dr. Pawan Yaramsetti to introduce himself next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pawan Yaramsetti. I've been in North Carolina for 20 years, been in US for 32 years. My last stop in the training was at Chapel Hill, where I did my interventional pain and headache fellowship. I'm a neurologist. I practice at Raleigh Neurology Associates, which is considered the second largest practice of neurology in the country. And we are we have about 30 providers and about 100 physician extenders, such as nurse practitioners and physician assistants, and about 500 employees. I'm a partner. I'm educated in Hyderabad till 10th grade, it's Hyderabad Public School. Then I went to Little Flower Junior College from 11th and 12th. Those are all brand names. If you're from Hyderabad, you would know them. And then I went to Gandhi Medical College. I did several years of general surgery in Mount Sinai Medical Center. and then a year of neurosurgery, neurointensive care fellowship at New York Medical College. Then I went to Tennessee for 3 years, did neurology and year of stroke fellowship, and came to Chapel Hill for another year of interventional pain fellowship. So I've been in the same practice for many years. We do offer some summer programs for summer interns. We do train rotations to students who are in medical school, who are in residencies at Chapel Hill and Duke. I do a lot of community work, and recently I was given the Old North State Award by the governor for community service outside your professional work. So thank you for Murthy for inviting me to be in the panel.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan, for agreeing to be on the panel. I think you're a good friend, and thanks for that. Now I would like to move on to Dr. Rajawatlamuri to give a little intro about himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rajawatlamuri. Thank you, Murthy, and I really appreciate TLA, Tana, and Tata for giving me the opportunity to be on this prestigious panel. I am an advanced therapeutic endoscopist. There are too many words in that, meaning basically I'm a gastroenterologist who can get into a bile duct or look at the pancreas without opening up your belly. That is basically it. To get into this position, I did my medical school back in India, in Karnool Medical College. I stood first in my class. And after that, I came here to Tennessee, in Johnson City, Tennessee, and did my master's in public health with health administration degree. And after that, I did my residency there itself in East Tennessee State University. Started working as a hospitalist, and during which I was at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem. And that's when I came to North Carolina for the first time. And even before too, Tennessee is not that far, and we are at just the border. And after that, during the hospitalist position, I was able to work with the community a lot and with the student health organizations there in Wake Forest Baptist. And then after that, I did my gastroenterology in Syracuse. It's upstate Syracuse University. And then came down to Roanoke to do my advanced endoscopy. And after that, I joined our group here in Raleigh Medical Group Gastroenterology. And since 2017, I have been in Cary here. Coming to the why I like gastroenterology or why I like medicine is that, as you all know, in Sanskrit, there is a word saying that Manav Sevaye Madhav Seva, meaning that if you service people around you, that itself is the service to God. I do believe in God too, just to tell you that. So that is the main reason why I chose to be a doctor. And I'm very glad to be here and answer any questions and answer questions for the attendance here and everything. Thank you, Murthy, for inviting me to be in this panel.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Watlamuri. Really appreciate you accepting our invite to be on this panel. So now, next, I would like to move on to Bhavik Shah. Would you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Bhavik Shah. I'm Solution Associate Partner at McKinsey & Company. Before I go in my intro, thank you again for letting us be part of this illustrious panel. Murthy, Sudhakar, and Kamal, you invited me here. They gave me 3 minutes. I'll try to divide my speech in my introduction and my career journey. I will also talk a little bit about what actually consulting company and management consulting is. I didn't know until I did my MBA at Duke. So it is something not very well known to a lot of people. And then also would like to leave a couple of messages that you can take away. So I have been in North Carolina since I landed in US in 1999. I have been mostly living in Charlotte and Raleigh. We tried 2 years at Bay Area, and we thought that Raleigh was a great place, so we came back. So we did that too. I was mechanical engineer coming from India. I didn't even know what computer science was until I basically did some programming in my final year of engineering, which my son still makes fun of me. And suddenly I realized that this was something really cool and I liked it and I was good at it. So when I came to US, I actually did switch. And I will talk about a couple of switches I have made in my career because it is an important part. All of you are at very early stage and you may or may not know what you want. And it is completely okay. So I'll talk about some of the changes I have done. So from first thing first, mechanical engineer bachelor's to computer science in master's. And I wasn't sure that what I was doing. I still ended up doing 4.0 GP and all that. So I think I was good at that. I got a job at Microsoft right out of the school. And I was there for almost 9 years. I was getting bored. While Microsoft is a great company and I have utmost respect for that, the work was becoming a little monotonous for me. So I wanted to try something else out. Did MBA at Duke while working at Microsoft and learned something new about consulting world. I didn't even know that engineers are invited in consulting world. I had done MBA, but all of my experience was engineering related. So I did this now. Consulting is really interesting. If you have experience in engineering and technology, and if you are advising a client who is also equally technically competent, they want someone who can actually say that I have done this, I know how these things work, how data and analytics are used in your organization and to solve their problem. They actually feel much more confident in the recommendations you come up with. What does consulting do? So in consulting at McKinsey & Company, that we basically advise pretty much all Fortune 500 clients, governments, and you may have heard some of the news also. I think Andrew Cuomo, we usually don't talk about clients, but Andrew Cuomo, when he was building the strategy for New York, he clearly called out that he was working with McKinsey. So McKinsey tries to solve really big problems. And while we do that, we also try to leverage a lot of data and analytics. So in my own role, I actually work with our life sciences practice. I lead digital and analytics product building. And we basically come up with advanced analytics based insights. And we tell that this is what you could be doing based on the data. So it is a very good combination of my engineering career for the first 10 years and then the consulting career remainder part of the journey. So I have really enjoyed it. 2 or 3 things I would leave you with. First, be curious and explore. You don't have to basically stick to your career once you get out of the school. You can try and test different things. Also, don't be driven just by what monetary rewards is. I'll tell you, I don't know whether I would have been doing better at Microsoft or at McKinsey. Probably I would have been doing this, doing very similar from financial and monetary perspective, but that's not important. What's important is I was getting bored before and somehow I have found something that actually still uses the same skill set, but I'm enjoying it better. All those things are important for being a happy person in your life. And from personal side, I have 2 kids. Some of them actually, some of you may know, Swayam and Swara. We are in Cary area. So that's that. Sorry, probably took a little long.
Yeah, no problem, Bhavik. I think that's great intro. I think a very varied perspective. You know, different. Your journey is very, very interesting. I'm sure. I think people will have some questions for you in terms of how you choose to transition. So, thanks again. We have invited one more panelist, Surya. He sent us a note today that he's a little unwell and he's a little under the weather, so he couldn't join. But we have a diverse set of panelists here. Without further ado, I think we should just get started. So let me quickly introduce my good friend and my fellow in the crime. He's Sudhakar Puvada. He is usually very humble and modest in terms of introducing himself. So that I'll say a word before he says a lot about himself. He's a PhD from MIT, and he worked in. he worked in various companies, before he's starting out on his own. So he's involved with a couple of startups here. So, and I don't want to give away too much about yourself, Sudhakar. I think, why don't you say something about yourself and then carry on with the moderating the panelists.
Thanks, Murthy. Just as he introduced, I'm actually, my background is I'm a chemical engineer by training. And I did my PhD at MIT. And I was actually thinking I would sort of pursue a very scientific kind of career. And I was actually leaning towards academics in the beginning. But various things led me and moved into industry, and I actually loved the industrial job, specifically focusing on creating new products. And I have launched various products for various companies. And really that sort of drove my passion for innovation and consumer-led innovation. Through my career, I've been sort of probably 25 odd years in terms of career. I've led large R&D teams across the globe and for various multinational companies. I've actually, just like Bhavik was indicating, I also sort of get bored with jobs every 3-4 years. And I'm not sort of stuck in a job for more than 4 years. Sometimes it is a company sort of transferring you to a new role and moving into a new role. And sometimes it's me sort of looking for new roles and sort of moving on. Around 3-4 years back, I started my own entrepreneurial journey, and I'm sort of involved in a couple of startups. My passions really are for innovation and driving innovation. How do you sort of create innovation to sort of enhance people's lives? Creating innovation ecosystems. I'm part of Greensboro Chamber of Commerce and to promote an entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem there. I also sort of get involved with a lot of mentorship of various startups. Currently, I'm mentoring, I think, 3 to 4 startups as they sort of go through the journey. And lastly, and probably more importantly, I have a lot of passion for sort of helping kids find and discover their passions. And so that's how I got involved with Leadership Academy. And the last 3 years have been a fun journey as sort of engaging with the kids, seeing their sort of energy levels and seeing some of their passion. Just this morning, we had actually a Toastmaster session for middle school students. And I was so amazed with the passion by which these middle schoolers were able to sort of speak actually passionately about topics that I would never have thought middle schoolers would be interested in. So now we have probably a whole bunch of high schoolers here, and we're hoping these high schoolers, our sort of kids in a sense, become an integral part of the society. And the goal of this session, at least from my perspective, is to open their eyes to what is out there. And that's part of the reason we're having this panel discussion. There's no right or wrong job. There's no right or wrong career path. Each of us will find that career path, and we hope to open their eyes based on some of the advice, based on some of the experiences all of you can share. So with that, I probably we can get going with the sort of more of a panel discussion. So I'm going to have this panel discussion sort of split into broadly 4 themes. Theme 1 would be focused a little bit in the area of day in the life. How does a typical day of your job is? What are some of the things that truly excite you? The second is focusing a little bit more on the college major and the hard skills and how that has helped you through your career. Third is soft skills. Often there's a big emphasis put on the hard skills, but my personal experience is sometimes the soft skills actually outweigh the hard skills in terms of career success and the career thing. So I want to sort of have a little bit of a conversation on the soft skills. And lastly is there's a little bit of the looking back as you think about your past. What are some of the things you wish you had done? And maybe that could be indications and could be some advice that you could also give to the kids as they're starting out their journey. So let's start with the day in the life of. So what does a typical day look like? And when you wake up in the morning and you go to work, what makes you sort of go into your job. Let's start with Bhavik. Why didn't you start? Because you ended that last time.
Happy to. So the day and how it start has changed in COVID world. It used to be very different before COVID, as many of you may have imagined. But in consulting, typically the day, the week starts Monday morning. You start traveling, particularly in Raleigh. You rarely have local client. You do have, but most of the clients ends up being outside of Raleigh. So it starts on Monday morning. You are on the plane, and then Thursday evening is what you are coming back. So very different. It's like what they call it 80% travel. You are traveling to client. You are in the team room with your own team, client team, and you worked on the project or engagement that you are trying to solve answers for your client. Now, what do you do during days when you are at client? So the day gets divided in lots and lots of meetings. Typically, it ends up being the client executives and the people on the ground who you are working with, gathering the data, getting them understanding what problems they are trying to solve. And in this case, a problem could be anything. They may be like, particularly since I get involved in life sciences background, which apparently is a theme here. A lot of us are actually from healthcare and life sciences field, but you are like based on the claims data, the healthcare claims that we submit after buying any medication. And if you and those claims data can be available by buying from a couple of vendors. You can actually do a lot of analytics, and you can see what's happening, which patients are taking medication, not taking medication, what's the reason, what are the reasons, and that help pharma companies or even the doctors to provide right treatment. So actually it helps them to the mission they are serving for. So in my role, it ends up being working with the team of our clients and understanding where the challenges are and how we can help. And then the half part of the day ends up being working with the team, where we have associate, engagement manager, and we do real problem solving. So we have heard about the problem, we have collected the data from the client, and then McKinsey team tries to basically work together and figure out what the solution could be. We also leverage a lot of expertise from other part of the firm. We engage with them, and then we try to solve the problem. So yes, and it ends up being a many times very long day, but also fun environment. If you like being with people and if you like trying different types of problem, this is a very, very good career path.
Madhu, do you want to take on next?
Sure. And I remember what Bhavik is describing, because I used to work in management consulting as well. I don't miss those plane rides anymore, but I remember what it was like. So I live in Durham and I work in Raleigh, so I have a little bit of a commute, but during the pandemic, we have been largely remote, and I'm just now starting to go back a couple days a week into the office. And I'm in a management role where I oversee teams at our division. And so my days usually are also filled with a lot of meetings, and the meetings can take, I think, a few different forms. Sometimes we're meeting internally, so that's with my teams, some of whom report to me or some of whom I work really closely with. My teams tend to be folks who are really knowledgeable about policy and programs, but we work really closely with a number of colleagues across our department, people who work on data, people who work on finance, folks from compliance and controllers, people who are more legislatively oriented. So we have to work really collaboratively across the department to get our to operate the nutrition programs that are in my organization. And so there's a lot of internal kind of team management and planning that we have to do. We also have our senior leadership, our secretary, our deputy secretaries. We typically have a briefing schedule where we brief them, whether it's once a week or once a month, to let them know what are the top priorities for our team, what are the major planning initiatives. any risks that we need them to help us with. And so those are some examples. And then we also, we're a government organization. So there are a lot of external partners that are really interested in what we're doing. Some of whom are our regulators. So we're regulated by the federal government. I work at the state level. And so the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, is one of our regulators. So we meet with them regularly to tell them how the program is doing. We also are regulators of the county staff. So we are providing a lot of guidance and technical assistance, having a lot of webinars and trainings for them. And then, we'll have meetings every now and then with legislators who might want to know about the SNAP program or the WIC program, which I should say, just in case folks aren't familiar, both provide really critical nutrition benefits for families who might not otherwise be able to afford groceries or food. Legislators may have questions about the program. So I sometimes meet with legislators or folks from the governor's office. So a number of different, every day is different. That's part of what I love about my job, is that I, am charged with getting to do work to improve programs that improve the health and well-being of people in North Carolina. And it's extremely rewarding work. It's hard. Working in government is the hardest work I've ever done because, there's a lot of expectation that, we will use taxpayer dollars effectively and actually make a difference. And that's what we're aiming to do every day. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Next up, can Rao,
Yep.
Can you take up?
Yeah, thank you, Sudhakar. I will follow the similar theme as Bhavik and Madhu said, being part of the senior technology leadership role. Obviously, you'll have a ton of meetings, but similar to Madhu, again, I'm thrilled to go to work every day because I talked about some of the problems that the industry is facing, right? Especially in the health and well-being perspective, right? Like this is how I think about from my work is, imagine you go to a doctor and then you're sitting at a doctor and then you just said, oh, by the way, you don't have insurance. And imagine the kind of a customer that goes through that kind of stuff, right? When you go in, so that means we have not processed it properly and then made sure that we ship those insurance cards on time for you, right? So it's again, it starts with customer obsession, saying that how could we really support our customers, especially when they are in this kind of a need. So I try to do a couple of ways. One is I try to set aside a couple of hours in the morning, at least a minimum an hour to hour and a half, a little bit more strategic thinking side, saying that, okay, what type of a tools or other stuff that we need to continue to invest in there, right, to help through as we move forward. The other side of the angle is a talent. And as you know, talent is really, really critical. And if you take a look at technology, there's just a ton of jobs across the board. How do you attract the talent, you retain the talent, and you train the talent, right? So it's equally important, not only getting the talent from outside, but also retaining and training them is also equally critical. And actually, I'll say even more critical, right? So that's where I try to take a look at it to see what need to be done on that side. So really good amount of meetings across the board between those ones. But one thing I will definitely do in a given day, try to block off for some time to take a step back and then look through what do you want to do strategically. And then a little bit in the afternoon time, more into operational side, saying that if there are issues and other stuff on a tactical side, what need to be done on that. So that's how my days are divided, but certainly I'm very passionate and I would encourage for all the kids on this one, their technology is rapidly growing. Any field you look into it, technology, whether you took into law, whether you took into medicine, anywhere you go, right? So, and then it's evolving fast. I would just certainly say, keep an eye and then keep looking into technology. And then the jobs you see right now, they do not exist. They're not going to exist down the road in 10 years. There's going to be completely different type of things. And you are starting hearing about metaverse right now, right? Go back 5-6 years, no, we did not know this stuff, right? So technology evolving much faster. I would encourage all of you guys to keep reading and keep learning. Thank you, Sudhakar.
Raja Garu?
Hello, everyone. As a physician, my day starts early as usual, and with as other panelists was telling, like Madhu, Madhav, and Bhavik, we do have meetings, a lot of them, but not in a group meetings though. But it's a meeting with a patient. That is a difference. So each patient is a learning opportunity for us. Whenever we meet, each patient comes in from a different background, different perspective, and you cannot treat this, the same patient, one patient as the same as others. And with now the healthcare field, how it is evolving, as I agree with Madhav, there is so much of technology being involved in medicine too. And if you think that way, at least 2 to 3 hours of my day would be in front of the computers. So documenting, reviewing the charts, reviewing everything about the patient and coming up with a plan and all those things. And that is always there, irrespective of what field one chooses, especially with the technology being involved in every field where we are right now. And then coming to the medicine aspect of it, as a gastroenterologist, I have clinic days and I have procedure days. Procedure days are the days where we do procedures in patients like endoscopy, colonoscopies, and those things. And then half a day of my week, I put it as an administrative work so that I can catch up on and then talk to the patients. Sometimes some of the patients do come from 3 hours away, especially being an advanced provider. I have patients coming from all the way from New Bern and from border of Virginia. They cannot come to meet me in person sometimes, especially with the COVID situation too. So in that type of situations, we talk to them, and having time to talk to them is important. As you know, one of the fields where it affected a lot compared to other fields where you have to go in person is the medical field. I have not taken a day off, like in a way where because of the COVID, you cannot go and work. It is not like that for us. Even though you are taking care of the patients with the COVID positive patients, you will still gown up and then go and take care of them. That is there always. And then coming to there will be always calls, because as a physician, you are responsible for taking care of the patients and taking care of their illness. At the same time, nowadays, as Madhav was telling, the healthcare field is about 20% of the GDP. The healthcare is more concentrating more on value-based patient care. Value-based patient care, all the data comes from McKinsey, as Bhavik was telling, like majority of them, like because we go back and then look at it, and then Madhu implements those things in getting the, you see, this is all interrelated. So I am interrelated with Madhu, Madhav, and Bhavik, and Pawan too. So these are all interrelated, but each field has its own way that we can affect a patient's care as well as a person in this community. Thank you.
Pawan?
Yeah, so I don't want to, I'll give a different perspective to the kids. The doctors, everybody knows that, you go to work every day, 7:30, come back home at 5:30, take calls. But what they need to know is what is involved getting there. And it is easy for parents and others to tell, oh, you should become a doctor, they make money, and it's a stable job and this and that. And it's you're respected in the community if you're a physician. But now I did not settle down. I was in medical school when I was 17. I got straight up from the high school, got into med school. I did not settle down until I was 35, lived off of $2,000 a month. And we had kids during the process, got married. We were studying, we're taking board exams. In fact, I'm 54 years old now. And last 2 weeks ago, I took my third recertification exams in neurology boards. And I happened to be in Las Vegas with a bunch of my friends. I like to have a good time outside my work. And they were all having good time, but I was actually studying in the hotel room for my exams and taking the online tests. And they're like, "Are you crazy? What are you doing?" So that is what the life of a doctor is. People don't see, they see, okay, a nice car and a nice house, but they don't see the pain and the commitment you need to have to be a doctor. And now, to become a doctor, it used to be a lot more easier, 15, 20 years ago. It's become ultra competitive. The universities have made it so much harder, if you take a pre-biology, pre-med program, to even get good grades. You need to have a GPA of 3.7 to apply to a med school. They look at what university did you go to and what courses you took. And after 4 years of grueling training, the pre-med program, basically you learn half of medicine in college. You're doing biology, chemistry, biochemistry, all that stuff. Now, most of the medical school programs require you to work for a year or two before you actually get into med school. So that is 22 plus 2 years of doing something else. A lot of my friends' kids have become doctors, and they have not gotten into medical school till they are 25. And then from 25, if they get into med school, in the MCAT, you're talking about 1 point can throw you off too, and it can be pretty discouraging in the MCAT scores. From 512 to 59, 508, they may not get into med school. It's so competitive. And then you get into med school, you do 4 more years of training. Then you have to do a residency after that, which is between 5 to 8 years. So by the time you come out of it, you will be about 33, at least 33, 34 years now, sometimes even later. And an average physician in this country pays his medical school debt. By the time he pays his debts, he's about 47, 48. So everything you see outside is not also rosy, okay, number one. So if you're really not committed to become a doctor, don't push yourself. There are so many ways you can do well. This is the beauty of this country, is that you can be good at anything, everything. You can do anything and make money and be happy. You don't have to be a doctor. But there is also a good side to it. You really, if you go home happy, when the patients get better, you feel really good. You help somebody and they treat you like God, not like literally God, but you feel satisfied. Like the jobs, like teachers' jobs, doctors' jobs, they're very satisfying because you feel good when you come home. You feel like you've done something to to make a difference to others. So that is the length of training one has to go through. And there are some good test takers who do fly with colors, and there are people who are not good test takers, who don't have great analytical skills, have tough time doing really well in colleges. But that's okay. You don't have to be a doctor. You can do in healthcare. If you look at the healthcare, like Madhu, say hello to your dad. I'm very fond of your dad. Okay, I know you as kids and your sister and everybody. Anyway, so what she's doing, she's delivering, public health policy, administration of healthcare services. You could be a biochemist, you could be a pharmacist, you could be a geneticist, you could be a cognitive scientist, you could be a psychologist, you could be a physician extender. They make physician extenders, they do 2 years of a PA school after 4 years of college, and then they make $100,000 and they're happy. They work like doctors, they have their own patients. You don't have to be a doctor if you don't want to. But there are a lot of other things. So you need to explore. And also in college, it's always good to take like majors which is not purely biology majors, because sometimes it constrains yourself and you may not come out with a particular skill. So like I see a lot of kids in Chapel Hill, the pre-med program is so hard to do with a good GPA. A lot of the kids go to public health. If you're a public health, you can get a job in public health job. It's a great, you can get great job in public health and you can still become doctors. And now I see a lot of the physicians, not all of them, but a lot of them, they do like a MD, JD, law and medicine, MD, MBA, law and business, because people have different minds and they can contribute and bring different value to the plate. And some people might be into research. And so when you apply to colleges, there is no right or wrong to this. You can pick and choose. You don't have to go to the topmost university. If you're in business or law or in non-medical, you have to be better off in good universities, top universities, because the opportunities are opened up. They open up better for those. That is the only difference. But in medicine, all that you have to do is to do very well in the college. You need to have a 3.7 GPA. So it's okay to go to NC State. You don't have to go to Chapel Hill. And in fact, I think there are more number of kids going to medicine from NC State pre-biology program than Chapel Hill or Duke, because they're so hard to get the high GPA. And at the end of the day, they look at the GPA and your MCAT scores. And of course, where you go also matters a little bit. So those kind of things. So my life is, I get up at 5:30. The happiest thing I do is to have a coffee in the morning with my wife. That's the only time we actually, before the day starts and the kids and everything growing up, it's 10 minutes of time with her. And you have to balance work life, social life. You need to have something else. You just can't do work all the time. You have to have fun. And when you guys go to college, don't drop off all the skills you have learned, like playing piano. And I've seen a lot of these kids, the parents take them to, this, till they're pretty much burnt out, but then they quit everything. They don't learn piano. They don't do anything.
Pavan, can I hold off you on that? We'll come to those topics. We'll talk about the education.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's good.
So if I sort of looking at all the panelists, some really great points. I think one of the key messages that is coming out is pursue your passion, pursue your, don't focus or don't select your career based on just the money aspect. And as just now, Dr. Pavan sort of was indicating, sometimes it might be more illusionary. You may not be making as much money as people think that would happen in a certain respect. But the tremendous amount of satisfaction, I think, across the panelists we heard, is that sort of this huge satisfaction by having the impact that they have. And every job impact is different. Some very, very direct with patients, some very indirect, like, for example, what Madhu was saying through policy and things like that. But the impact you have on your customers, on your partners, is what really gives them the tremendous satisfaction. I also sort of heard, this whole thing about variety. There's no single thing in a job. And some people seem to sort of thrive on variety that's happening. Whereas I think some other people probably thrive on sort of consistency, and same thing sort of happening. Across the panelists, I heard this whole thing about continuous learning, and the learning even, that never stops. Some people are dedicating times. Some people go all the way to Vegas and, study there. So, that's a quite of this one. Also, I think I heard a large part of the job is not necessarily doing things directly, but through others, through influencing, whether it be your team or your team members. And that seems to be an important part. So just wanted to give a little bit of a summary from at least in the day in the life. I want to sort of move on to the next topic, and that's the college major and the hard skills. And many of our people who are in the panelists are high school students, and they're probably going to be deciding on how to pick a college major. And maybe the next sort of round we talk about, how did you pick your college major and how did it influence your career? And actually how important is the major selection? Because some people started out, like Bhavik, I think started out as a mechanical engineer and is no more, he's in a very different thing. So, but for others, the college major plays a huge role. So if you talk a little bit about how you picked a college major, how important was that to your career? And in a sense, does the college major need to be a continuous part throughout your career? So let's start with Bhavik.
Yep, happy to. So college major, as I said, I studied 4 years of mechanical engineering and never practiced it. But at the same time, the concepts you learn and everything are still helpful. When I talk to my son on some of his physics related problem, I can still bring in some of those knowledge that's still back, right? So it's helpful. But more than that, I think the first 4 years of engineering, wherever you go, it helps you basically, this is my opinion now, it helps you basically develop some analytical methods that you can use anywhere, any profession you go to. It helps you to break down some of the, like how you tackle any challenge or a situation that you bring up. So I think that way of learning is helpful. Having said that, which major you pick is important. It's definitely, you could basically continue wandering around during your professional career, or that this is what I want to do, and that's where you go deep. It makes a huge difference. You become basically pretty proficient pretty early if you already know what you want to do, right? And some kids I know that even from high school, they know that like they want to go to medical side, and they start picking up courses in that direction. Absolutely nothing wrong with that if that's where you know that your passion is. Having said that, it's completely okay to pause and ask yourself, is this really what I signed up for? Am I doing the right thing? Am I still happy? In my case, I basically did mechanical engineering. I learned about computer science while being a mechanical engineer. Some of the courses started involving programming, and then I switched computer science. I think based on everything I can see now, that was a good shift. I really loved it. I enjoyed, and I have enjoyed doing computer programming. At the same time, like after a few years, I started doing the same thing again and again, was kind of making me bored at least. And then exploring MBA, and then consulting was helpful. And in consulting, automatically by nature, particularly the kind of role mine is, every 3 to 4 months, your engagement changes, your client changes, your problem set changes. So now you're doing something completely different. The downside of that is you are learning something new. You may need to actually go and read paper. You may need to start understanding what your client is actually saying. Some of the terminology may be quite new to you, and you will need to keep up with that. So there is always learning there. But if that's what you like, you will enjoy it. And then Duke MBA, I will tell you about that. I frankly speaking don't know what I learned there. I'm still using it. I think Sudhakar was saying there will be probably a section of soft skills. What the program teaches you, that how you can influence others, how you can lead others, and not necessarily by being a manager. You can lead someone actually from bottom up also, right? So those are some of the soft skills is actually what you learn in MBA program, and they are 80% important or play role than your technical skills.
Raja?
I'm glad to. So I did my medical degree in India. After the 10th grade, you can choose to become either to choose medicine or like our biological sciences or mathematical sciences. So there are two options there at the time, mostly. In the 10th grade, I was the only one who got 100 out of 100 in math. I'm really surprised too, but I chose biology, even though I was really good at math. And all my friends, even now, like all my 10th grade friends whom I'm in contact with them, they're all engineers, like almost, I would say 70 people or something like that. And I know only 3 or 4 who have taken medicine at the time. The reason behind that is, as Pawan was telling, medicine is really tough, not only here and even in India too. So in here, when I came here and I was working as a teaching assistant, when I was doing my master's in public health, I taught undergrad with one of my preceptors. So I know how much difficulty the undergrads undergo here with all the group projects they have to take, not only the college aspect of it, and also the personal aspect of it too. They are in their adolescent and young adult stage where they have to be having a good peer support and mingling with the peers. So it makes a lot of difficulty for them here to come up with a plan. From that standpoint, I would strongly recommend parents to listen to them and understand them and give all the support you can give. As I can see, maybe all the adults here in our group right now, most of them are from India. They might or might not have studied their undergrad here. As I taught undergrad here, I know, and one of my roommates was an undergrad too, when I was doing my master's. So I can understand how much stress they go through. The major issue would be like, if the parents can understand them more, that would help a lot. And coming back to why I chose medicine, as we know, like biology intrigued me, being a human being, which is a very sophisticated organism with all those mechanical parts working in cohesion, which made me intrigued at the time. That is the reason why I chose it. At the time when I was about to choose, my father asked me, why did you want to become a doctor, or why did you choose biology? Even though you got top score in math and you can be a very good computer engineer or whatever field you choose. So I told him that I wanted to become a doctor at the time. But he told me, before you make the decision, you look at the risks and the effort you have to make in that field. How would you know how much effort you have to put in? You would only know by making a chart out of it. So for example, Pawan told the panel, everyone, that, okay, you have 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, and then residency, and then post-residency, fellowship, and then all those things. So when I compare that, like, I have made that chart and showed it to my parents that this is what it is. And then I also made a chart for being an engineer or any other field. If I wanted to become a lawyer or something like that. So then you know, like, what the chart and what are the efforts the students have to go through to get to their end of the field. So that's very important. That way they will know beforehand what to make out of and what is required of them. And also, one of the soft skills where Bhavik was telling, like, irrespective of whatever degree you have, I also have a master's in public health. Even though I don't practice or I don't work in public health, but I use each and every day, like, reviewing the charts, because in public health, I reviewed so many charts, so many papers and all those things. So those are all the skills you develop down your lane, like, irrespective of what type of degree you make and you do. Thank you.
I'll ask Madhu. You probably are the one who actually did all the schooling, and you probably can, whatever you give could be something that the students here can identify with.
Sure, happy to share. So I went to Enloe High School in Raleigh, and I was part of what was called the Medical Bioscience Academy. And it was really a 4-year high school program to expose students to different healthcare professions. And I went into college thinking that I might be pre-med, but I had an opportunity to do an internship when I was in high school the summer before my senior year at Johns Hopkins in a lab. I worked in a wet science lab where I learned a lot about cell culture, and the lab we were working in was looking for treatments related to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And I just learned that, I was not as interested in the science portions of my internship. I was actually a lot more interested in the brown bag discussions that we had when we had speakers coming to tell us about the impact of pollution on asthma in kids in inner city Baltimore, or how Baltimore city officials were working to help families get access to food. And some of those topics, I just found myself really interested in the idea of public health as a broader approach, a way to affect change at a macro level. And there's certainly a very important role for medicine and public health, but they come at it from different approaches. Medicine being that, one-on-one experience that Raja was talking about with the patient, and really trying to help the patient. But public health is kind of taking it at a higher level to think about how do we shape our institutions and structures in society to make it easier for people to be healthy through policy changes, for example. So I was really excited to be going to UNC, which has one of the best public health schools in the country. And so as I said, when I got to college, I thought I was pre-med, and I spent a semester in Bio 101. And again, I just found myself, I was like, I really don't enjoy being in lab. It wasn't what got me excited. And that helped kind of confirm for me that I didn't want to be spending more of my time in college taking bio and chemistry. I had taken those in high school and I had done well, but it just didn't get me excited in the way that some of my other courses around policy and economics and psychology had. So that helped me make the decision that I would not be pre-med and instead really pursue public health as a major. So at UNC, one of the undergraduate majors is health policy and management, and it was an amazing program. It was a 2-year program, so I applied in my sophomore year and got accepted, and it was a really rigorous 2-year program where I was with a cohort of about 40 students, taking courses ranging from healthcare finance to environmental health, biostatistics, policy writing, and a consulting project. So I loved my major. It definitely shaped my career. I ended up working in healthcare consulting afterwards, but I found myself really missing public policy work that was really about, thinking about how we can use government to make a positive change in people's lives. So I'm grateful that I got to study in policy, and I ended up doing a master's in public policy as well. So I really, knew that I wanted to do something that was about the public sector and public service.
Pawan, you were already starting to talk about, many of those things. Do you want to add further? I know I sort of interrupted you previously.
Oh, no. I think I got carried away, but I think pretty much they covered it. I don't know, my mother told me to be a doctor. The 2 things she told me to do, one is to become a doctor, the other is to marry my wife. And I don't regret both decisions. And I did ask her why she asked me to be a doctor. She said, I was awful in math, so you'd rather be a doctor. And I was very good at biology and chemistry, and I sailed through. But, time to time, things, you feel burnout and you want to do something else. But I think it's okay. I think you should experiment with life.
Rao?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sudhakar. Madhu, what a terrific story from you, right? So overall, so you're really got a pathway for all the students in here. And then to picking up on what Dr. Pavan Ramsedi said, mine is also a simple journey coming from India, really, right? So there are two paths, right? You go into math or science, really, right? That's how it started. And then your parents heavily influence on where you want to go. I was happened to be good in math. So I said, oh yeah, you need to go. It's like you go to engineer or you're a doctor, right? So that's kind of a pathway in this one. And that's how I landed. But that said, I just want to emphasize that when I went to my computer science degree, I had no clue what computer science is or was at the time. But I've developed a passion in that particular one as I went in. And a simple story for me is I'm still in technology. I'm a technology graduate and I'm still in technology and I'm still passionate about that one. So I just want to emphasize to all of you that it's okay. I know some of the panelists said in here, it's okay if you do not know what you want to be. It's perfectly normal. And then there are some people who knows exactly what they want to do and then they'll go. That's okay too, absolutely. So regarding my journey on this one, so that's how I started getting into computer science and then working on developing software for a couple of years. Again, I got bored too. And I just said, the developing the code is not my passion and I want to be in a leadership role. And that's where really I went for, after a couple of years of working in the company, I went for my MBA at Babson College. Fantastic, really, right? And then really took on more and more leadership role. Regarding, Sudhakar, your question on choosing the major, these are my 2 cents, right? Choosing the major is definitely important. But I do want to emphasize that it won't determine all your future opportunities. It won't. But I'm not saying that it's useless, right? So again, if you know, go ahead and then choose it because it's going to set you forward really in your journey, in your on the knowledge you gain, as well as put forth in your where you wanted to go. But I also want to take one example, right? I don't know how many of you know, majority of the lawyers were English majors in undergrad. So that's like, the reason is obviously English majors are adapted communication, writing, research, and all the critical thinking. So that's all what the lawyers need. So I'm just saying that as long as you learn the transferable skills, that's going to help you get to the right place on this stuff. That's what I want to emphasize to all of you on this.
Great point, Rao. And this is actually one of the things quite often, whatever we study as a major, we probably are not going to use 80-90% of the specific skills. I'm a chemical engineering by training. I can't remember a lot of the things I learned in in college. But the thing is, you acquire various tools, various skills to solve problems. Some of them are transferable, some of them may not be transferable, but may shape how you think when you are faced with new problems. So that's, I think, one of the key bits. As I'm hearing from all of these things, a thought critical. You don't need to know necessarily your major at this point, but be open, explore things, look for things that will excite you, look for careers that you are naturally strong in, but don't necessarily, excitement, I think, is sometimes more important than the strength. Be thoughtful as you sort of go and select your major. Don't be impulsive. Try as a kid, try to find where your strengths are. And as a parent, I would sort of advise, help your kids discover their passions, their interests. Sometimes at this early stage, they probably don't know. So help them sort of discover their passions and strengths. So I think this
add
is
something, Sudhakar?
Yeah, please.
Just, I really want to reiterate what Madhav said about it. You really don't have to come in knowing what you want to do. A lot of colleges, you don't have to declare your major until usually at some point sophomore year or even junior year. And so I think it's really important when you get to college to give yourself the space to take new classes, to try things that you may not have ever experienced. That's what college is for. You don't get that time back again. And so, it's great to, I was lucky in that I had gotten exposed to public health even when I was in high school, and, was really excited about doing that. But it is perfectly okay to try out different things and to figure out what makes you excited and what you want to spend, the rest of your college career and potentially your full career doing.
Yep. And that's actually the unique strength of US education. Many of us who studied in India probably didn't have that sort of flexibility, and you had to select your major at a pretty early age. Especially in Andhra, you had to select after the 10th grade. So which makes it sometimes very difficult. I'll shift topics into the soft skills. We already touched upon some of those things. Rao sort of indicated this role of critical thinking and influencing and some of those things. But I would like to sort of discuss about the soft skills and how they sort of shape them. Pawan, could you start off on that?
I don't know. As doctor, the soft skills are, you need to have empathy for sickness, and it's very important, right? Second thing is, you need to be able to communicate to patients. It's an important skill to have. And the third thing is, you need to get along well with people around you. You can't be an ass at your workplace. You got to treat everybody with respect. Nobody really cares, you're a doctor or not. Your employees, they have jobs, and people get very narcissistic when they climb up the ladder, and you have to stay grounded. It's very important. And you should be able to, even though it's not a medical thing, you should be able to be available and connect with your community. It comes back to help you. Stay engaged in beyond medicine. Like, I have an IT company too. We have, me and a few other built a company a few years ago. It's doing really good. Something just to distract yourself from just monotony, because after any profession, after 10 to 12, 13 years, you get burnout because you do the same thing over and over again. And you go into a management kind of jobs, there is a huge burnout from high degree of stress. I have my neighbor who just retired as a CEO of PRA, Pharmaceutical Research of America, very accomplished man. And I said, Colin, you're 60, you have so much to offer back. He said, Pawan, I'm just so burnt out. I can't do this. I sleep 3-4 hours a day. I'm 62 years old. I have all this money. I can't do anything with it. I'm just stuck with my job. He's managing people. So nothing is like perfect thing that comes. You have to have a balance. You have to enjoy what you do. You have to have time for your family. That makes you a religion, whatever, community service, something you have to do to get the stress out of it. So those are the few things I can say.
Rao? You're on mute, Rao.
So just a couple of things I want to highlight from a soft skills perspective. I would just say these are extremely critical for your success. Definitely hard skills as part of your academics. You're going to learn through it whether it's a technology, whether it is sciences, right? You'll always learn it. But I would say these are really essential for your success. The couple of them I use regularly as a part of a leadership role for me was communication, right? To start off, right? Whatever the role you are in, communication is extremely critical, right? How do you communicate succinctly, right? And then to the point, and also you're going to get into some of these kind of especially in leadership, sometimes you need to give a good message and sometimes you want to give a tough message, right? So how do you really develop those kind of a really good communication skills? I know other panelists talked about teamwork. I, especially in this world right now, agile, and then the whole world is transforming more. The old style of management, this is my 2 cents, is going away. It's more in how could you be more a servant leader there? How could you really bring up your team, right? You're just, and you're as an individual, you're just an individual. Whereas if you're the power of a team, right? So you're going to really conquer the world. So how could you really enable the teamwork? Decision making at each and every level is going to be very, very critical. Again, as high school students, like for example, we talked about this tough subject on choosing the major. As you get into whichever profession you are into, right, you need to end up making some decisions. And you are taking a decision based on the data you have at that moment, right? So again, it could be right or wrong, right? In retrospect, after moving forward on it. And as you go up the ladder, that information is going to be very smaller and smaller, right? So you got to really figure out asking questions there and then really getting comfortable with uncomfortable on that, right? So because you also, as you get up the ladder there, you're going to get like biased information too, right? You need to really figure out how could you distill, how could you go down really, right? Get the kind of information you need. And also there are decisions you make that are two-way and a one-way, right? So, and I know you in Amazon philosophy, you hear it. So there are decisions that you can make that you could go through it and you could reverse it, but there are decisions you make that are not reversible, right? So that's where you need to really figure out on kind of your decision making on what type of decision you're making that's going to help you in your future on that. Delegation, again, as you get on there into leadership roles more and more, how do you delegate to others there and then motivate them, right? And then really get them to grow in their organization, also in their career. Last but not least, I know Dr. Pawan talked about is empathy, right? Does not matter whatever the role you are in there, you just need to be empathetic about the people. As a doctor, obviously, you're empathetic about your patient, but as an engineer or as a leader, you're empathetic about your associate. You do not know what is going on in their life, right? So how could you put in their own shoes, right? And then try to be empathetic in the situation they are in. So I think those are the ones, Sudhakar, I can think of.
Raja?
Yeah, sure. As other panelists were telling, the communication, that is very, very important. Communication is a two-way street. It is about giving decisions and then talking to them. At the same time, the most important thing I would say is listening. For a good leader, or for a person to be a good leader, you need to be a good listener. So only when you listen, that's when you tend to get all the information what you need to make the good decision. I have two kids, very good, beautiful, and they work very hard, but they're not good listeners. I always tell them, like, before I complete my sentence, do not interrupt me, listen to me, and then you talk to me, and then I will listen to you. So that is what I would say, even for the parents as well as the high school students, that listening and let the others be heard is very important. The other one is the critical thinking. So you have to think critically about your own decision too. You have the information and you make a decision. And then you go back, is there a plan B for this? Or is there a plan A and plan B? And that way you can see the positives and negatives. That is not easy for a high school student to make that decision. I understand that. But you have to be getting a help from a parent or a teacher or a counselor who can help you with that. That can only come when you start the conversation. For me, like my elder daughter, she does not want to talk to her counselor. We have to force her to get to talk to her. Then she started learning. And so I think you have to encourage them in that way too, so that they will get the information from their counselors and then the peers. And then the third part is, in any field, wherever, whatever age you are in, you have to have the passion for learning. I'll give you an example. I have a neighbor who is retiring and he's learning. What is he learning? He's learning about gardening. So he has a passion to learn gardening. So that means that a passion for learning, irrespective of where you are. So that is also very important. You have to inculcate. And the high school is the stepping stone and the foundation for all this. So once you have a very strong foundation, you can build multi-story buildings on top of it. but the foundation is the most important thing you need to have. Thank you.
Bhavik?
Yep. So management consulting or any consulting, it's a people's business. It is, and it works on relationship, working with your clients, working with your team member. And that cannot happen without good soft skills. How you talk to them, how you communicate. I think most of the panelists already covered some of these things. One thing I would say is understand there is something called IQ and something called EQ. Most of us stay focused on IQ part of it, that what we are learning, how good we are in math, STEM subjects and everything. EQ is what typically not taught at school, but something you will need to pick up. You need to start understanding that what are the emotions of a person you are talking to. Is he even in a situation where he's ready to communicate, to listen to what you are communicating to him? Sometimes answer is no, and in that case, you talk to him what is appropriate at that time, and you come back to your agenda, your topic later on. Point is that understanding, as we were discussing, empathy, understanding the state of the audience you are talking to, and the words you use matter a lot. There is someone asking question like, what do you do to build your soft skills? I would say, as Sudhakar was suggesting, getting involved in Toastmasters, doing some public speaking courses, focusing on English and ELA also, as much as you may focus on the technical subjects, is very, very important. Because sometimes you have right thoughts, right ideas, but if you don't put them in right words, they actually don't have the same effect. Soft skills are also important because you may be great in engineering, in programming, in math, science, and all that. But if you don't know how to talk to people, how to work with others, and how to basically be a good team member, no one wants to work with you. No one wants to work with a genius jerk. I'm deliberately using that word so that it resonates with you. But these are all very, very important things. And I would say soft skills play. So technical skills are absolutely important. It's a foundation on which, as Raja was saying, on you build. But how successful you become in that career and in that role actually gets defined by your soft skills, by your EQ, not only IQ.
Madhu, could you also extend on this, but also maybe give some advice in terms of the students, what tools might be available in schools and colleges that they could pick up on and leverage their soft skills?
Yeah, sure. So I agree with all the ones that have been named. I would definitely reiterate communication skills, critical thinking. These are all important, really, no matter what field you go into. I guess I would just add specifically the importance of writing. Good, clear writing skills is really important in whatever field you go into, because inevitably you'll be writing some kind of a report or a grant application or patient report, having clear communication to your patients, or any number of the emails. Frankly, I can't tell you how many emails I read from my colleagues and I'm like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. So being able to clearly communicate what you're trying to convey, what you're asking of people, is important. I would say in terms of tools to develop these skills, I think extracurricular activities during high school and college are great ways to learn to be part of a team. I was part of a lacrosse team in high school. I was also in a choir. I was part of our science Olympiad. All of these different kinds of things provide ways for students to try out what it means to be part of a team, to maybe even take on a leadership role as a high school student. I did a lot of community service in high school with our Key Club and our National Honor Society, and decided to run for our vice president role. So it was a way for me to try out what it was like at a younger age to kind of have some responsibility and be in a leadership role. But I would say, most high schools have those kinds of clubs that you can participate in and get involved in, and colleges even more so. And I saw there was a question about, how do you get summer internships? I would say, lots of high schools and colleges definitely advertise these opportunities. You can also Google internships that, might match your interests if you have a specific area. So I would say getting involved as a high schooler is a great way to start, because that'll help you figure out what you enjoy. It also gives you an opportunity to do some of these things of like working in a group, working to communicate, writing, speaking, and you probably will have those experiences in your classes as well. So, taking them seriously and trying to really use them to hone your skills.
I just wanted to add a couple of things also. I think one of the soft skills that's important is also humility, especially when you are dealing with, various people. Don't ever come out as a know-it-all. The humility that, that you don't necessarily know the thing. And quite often in job interviews and things like that, people are looking for these soft skills quite often, sometimes more importantly than the technical skills, because technical skills can be learned, but soft skills are a little harder because it depends a lot on our personality. But once again, they can be learned. People can improve various aspects of their thing. Lastly, I would sort of add, I think as technology is sort of evolving, more and more the humanities, the soft skills are going to be important. So as you go through college, as you take classes, don't discount the humanities. I think strengthen some of those courses you take there. Don't take the easy courses. Take some of the harder courses and where you actually learn some of the soft skills. But be part of clubs, be part of, other activities that would make you a well-rounded individual rather than a one-dimensional individual. I've sort of shifted into the last section. We're sort of coming to the end. Maybe I would sort of ask each of the panelists if they can give, one piece of advice, one or two pieces of advice to the students. So let's start with Rao.
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much, but a couple of things to take away. So I will ask all of you to take away. Be intellectually curious in what you do. And then I know several of my panelists said, listen, right? I think that's going to be really, really critical for us. And then learn, dream big, really, right? So, but again, it's okay not know everything. And then you will figure out, you're all smart. Certainly you'll all end up in a good place. And I know, Sudhakar, you mentioned this is really truly a land of opportunities, right? So in this country, so there are so many ways you could go. And then as long as you're willing to learn, you're willing to adapt, and then listen, you'll be all successful. I think those are the couple of takeaways I request all of you to take away.
Yeah, so I just want to give some relevant advice to the kids who want to do medicine instead of being broad. I mean, I appreciate everybody else saying. So if you want to do medicine, just if you want to get a little ahead of the game, if you're in high school, try to finish AP Biology, AP Chemistry 1 and 2, and Physics, and try to get college credits for that. That way, typically these courses are the hardest ones when you go to college, especially the pre-med program, because the gatekeeping courses, they get people out. They can basically weed out students, so they make it a lot harder. So you can bypass that. And it just makes it easy when you go to college. First semester, just don't get too aggressive. Just take easy, liberal art classes, get to know the school. Whatever you do in high school, I mean, it's a totally different environment. So you have to get used to the college environment and everything, and just try to do well in the first semester, and then you can keep pushing yourself up. The other thing is that the research you do in high school, the papers you write, the awards you get, they don't count a whole lot in college. You have to do everything in college. they do help you to get a little bit ahead of the game. Like, for example, if you have already done some summer, like someone did some Johns Hopkins research, cell biology, something like that, it gives you a way when you apply for internships in college. Hey, this person did something, before. So, your application will be better. But you need to have a good GPA in college to be eligible for research programs. So be careful, pace yourself so you don't take too hard of a course up front, but keep your GPA up so you can travel abroad, or if you have other programs that you can engage, participate in research. And if you have gotten into trouble in college in the first, second year, tell your parents you got a problem, don't hide it. Talk to the counselors in college, tell them, let the parents know there are ways that colleges have remedial courses, summer programs that get you out of the trouble. I'm only telling these things because people don't talk about tough things, they talk about nice things always. But the truth is that not everyone's journey is perfect, and everyone goes through hardships in college. Whatever it is, it could be depression, it could be some breakup of relationship, terrible grades, adjustment issues. There are a lot of things happen. And also, important thing is that, like Bhavin was saying, that the emotional IQ is what really pushes you up in the ladder in corporate world. It's not your IQ. And you don't develop skills when you're 40, 50. You got to experiment in college. You got to get involved, get to know the people, understand psychology of people, spend time with them, integrate, party in a meaningful way. Don't get into too many bad habits, but those are all that makes your emotional IQ, understand humans or your relationships better. So I just want to tell you that.
Bhavik?
Yeah, so a couple of messages. One, we have been all saying that find out what your passion is. Some of the lucky ones will find out very quickly. Probably Madhu was one of those. I wasn't. I kept changing, but that's fine. As far as you know that you are trying something and going in right direction, it's completely okay. But it sounds like a cliche, but what happens is if you are passionate about what you are doing, you automatically, the success comes behind it. So that's why it is important. And while doing it, you are enjoying it also. I was very surprised to see that at my company in management consulting firm, I see actually particularly in pharma practice or the practice where I work on life sciences practice and in healthcare practice, we have lots of MDs, lots of people who go through, as Pawan was saying, for 35 years, 30 years a medical degree. And somehow they find after that this is not something that excites them. So rather than practicing, they actually end up joining consulting world where their experience, their degree is actually helpful while advising clients. So they do this kind of a switch. So these switches are possible. So be on a lookout that what you are passionate for, and then also be curious. Read what Elon Musk is doing. How can someone basically found 3 different kind of a companies? How do they get there? That level of intensity, right? Looks like Sudhakar is one of those also. So learn from them, talk to them. How do they do that? Those are actually, I can't even imagine how do they do that, but great things to learn from. Be curious.
Raja?
Yeah, I totally agree with all the panelists, what they were recommending. And passion is very important, but sometimes you might not get the passion at the time when you enter the college. And even after you come out of the college, it might change. So keep an open mind. That is very, very important. And emotional intelligence is a topic which is very, very important. We have not dealt that much in this discussion here, but as you age in your field, going to the field is different, but as you age in your field, that's where the emotional intelligence is very, very important too. That's all. Thank you.
Madhu?
I would say a few things. One, I think you've heard us say many times now, but I just want to drive it home that, I think there's a lot of pressure to have it all figured out, have your 5-year, 10-year lifetime career plan. And I think when you come on these panels, it's easy to make it, it's easy to look back at your career and say, oh yeah, it all worked out. But I did not know I would end up at UNC, didn't know I would work in consulting for a period of time and that I would now be in government. I don't know where my next job will take me. I know that I'm really happy here now, but I think allowing yourself to be open to opportunities is so important. And, knowing that you may get exposed to new things that really excite you. I think it's great to have a plan if you're that kind of person, but it's also good to have an open mind. So I just want to really emphasize that. Second, I think Pavan started to talk about this, about the importance of taking care of yourself. During this pandemic, it has been so hard for everybody, but especially folks in high school right now. Know that many of you have had very difficult and challenging times in your high school experience that have been unusual, and not having the same kind of routines and seeing your friends that the same ways that you have. And so I just want to say how important it is to take care of your mental health, your physical health, and to let folks around you know if you need help. Your friends or your family, find somebody to confide in you if you are, we know that a lot of people are struggling with anxiety and depression, and there's a lot of pressure on kids. So just know that you have people around you who care about you. And if you need to talk to somebody, it's so important to take care of yourself. So I just want to emphasize the importance of taking care of your mental health in high school at a time where it can feel, everything feels so stressful and competitive, and there's a lot of pressure, but it's important to be easy on yourself and give yourself grace. And then the third plug that I would just make is, I tell this to everyone, all students I speak to, is to consider at some point in your career working in public service, because it is one of the greatest honors that I've had in my career to work for the people of North Carolina, to know that I am helping to steward our government dollars to make people's lives better. And so I think government has so much potential and promise, and we need strong, smart leaders to be in positions of influence in government. So I encourage you all as young leaders who I hope want to tackle hard problems in this world. Government is not the only solution by any means. We know that, as we've seen on this panel, you can address these healthcare issues, for example, from a lot of different angles through the private sector, nonprofit, consulting, etc. But I just really encourage students to think about, at some point in your career, having some kind of work in public service, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level.
Great, this is wonderful. I just wanted to add one other thing. As people are selecting colleges, don't necessarily focus that as the end goal. The college you go to is important, but really what is important is what you learn there, how well you do there. Many of you sort of mentioned the GPA and things like that. So go to a college where you can do well, where you have time to excel at not only the education, but also at other things, where you can learn, where you can make friends. I mean, some of my lifelong friendships have formed in college. So give yourself time to form those friendships, to acquire some of those hobbies, to acquire some of those, interests that make you a well-rounded individual. So with that, I think the panel discussion part of it is sort of at a level over. We open the forum for any questions. Some of the questions have already been posted in chat, but if you have other questions, just raise your hand and we will unmute you, and then you could sort of ask the question.
Sudhakar wanted to make just one point. Sorry, it just occurred to me and it's relevant. We have been talking about soft skills. I was like, a lot of us have noticed that how Indian descent technologists have become CEO of like big companies in Silicon Valley. It has become trend. Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, and I can go on and on. And there was a Wall Street Journal article that how come Indian-born people do so well in technology company. And it was none of the points, like they described 5 things. None of them was like they were great engineers or they were great technologists. That was not the point. One of the point I remember and they mentioned is humility. Most of them, when they looked at it and they connected the dots, many of them came with a humble background, and they had humility to connect with their employees, with their customers. There was a very good story about how Sundar Pichai solved the problem between Google and Samsung when they were trying to build Android phone. And there was his emotional intelligence. Those skills are very, very important at that level. So please take away that message, even do some reading on this topic. Actually, there is a lot of research being done on that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Bhavik, I happen to read that one as well. I think humility is a great example. I think it is very humbleness, staying grounded and being able to connect with the people at their level. I think it's very, very important. Yeah. So Sudhakar, I don't see any hands that have been raised. So if there are no further questions, we can sort of do a wrap. I think we have about 4 minutes left in the session. Is that okay with you? Or shall we give another minute or so?
Yeah, maybe since nobody's asked questions, Sudhakar, let me just ask panelists. So one thing I was looking to see is storytelling was not kind of mentioned in general, right? So especially, for Madhu, this is like when you talk to non-technical people, right? So it's very easy for you to talk to a scientist who already know the problems and all that. But how do you talk to others? I mean, not to you, but any other panelists too. How do you talk to other people and influence them? How do you connect the message? It's just one of the things we can talk about.
I can take a first pass at that. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about how to make complex programs and ideas easily understandable, and how to make it real for people, because a lot of the work that we do is complicated, but at the end of the day, I'll give you an example. We know that 1 in 5 children in North Carolina before the pandemic were food insecure or hungry, didn't have enough food to eat every day. During the pandemic, that's gotten as high as 1 in 3 children in our state. And so the SNAP program it provides benefits to families to be able to purchase groceries, to put food on the table, and to make sure that their kids don't go hungry, because we know when kids are hungry, they can't learn as well. They can't do as well in school. They may have behavior challenges, or it impacts their physical health. So I say all that to give us an example of, I tried to not talk about some of the technical aspects of our program, but really how it helps real people facing real problems. So trying to make the work that you do, trying to explain it to a kindergartner, or maybe trying to explain it to a 5th grader, trying to really think about how do you make it understandable and accessible to people so that they care and are interested in what you have to say.
SBK, I think, has a question. Could you ask the question?
Hi, this is Suresh Kanchala from Novi, Michigan. And thanks, Tana, for these kind of sessions. So I have one question, okay, this is an ongoing need for every parent, right? So is there any separate group or a team in Tana to support these kind of things? when our parent is having this kind of decisions, okay, like that.
So, SBK, I think, see, the Tana Leadership Program is started to address some of these questions. But in terms of a forum or something that you're seeking, I'll have to consult with some of the Tana leadership and get back to you. So if you could maybe post your email or something in the chat group, we'll get back to you on that question.
Okay, because most of the people, they don't have proper direction and they're going in a different directions. But if you keep the people in the right direction, you'll have right people in the like in our upcoming.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if there are no other questions, I think just in the interest of time, Sudhakar, I would like to, just do a wrap at this point in time. And if there are any other questions, I think we'll probably share an email address or something here that they can send their questions to. But just quickly, again, it's a wonderful discussion. A lot of insights from all the panelists, and very passionate, stump speech from Pawan. It's a great advice, and Madhu, great insights, and Bhavik and Rao, and and Dr. Watlamuri. I think it's excellent insights for everyone. And as always, I think Sudhakar, great moderator. I think he just keeps the questions very open-ended deliberately, as I know. know him. So thank you all for making the time today, for sharing your insights. And also all the participants, we hope that we've answered some of your questions. We hope to do these programs in the future again. So we'll have another session very similar to the one today. Today the focus is STEM areas, but we'll have a session similar to this on the business side of things. So what you can pursue, when you take a business track. So what are the opportunities there? So we'll have another session there. And in addition to that, I think we have several other sessions planned as part of the Tana Leadership Program. Just be on the lookout. I think these sessions will be scattered throughout the year. So we have one that is really being planned for this summer. It's called Build Your Own Device. So very interesting. Anyone who wants to pursue their career in the STEM area or programming, if they want to get their hands dirty, that is a workshop format. So it's about 4 or 5 weeks long. So be on the lookout for those. I think if you're getting Tana emails, I think you'll know the dates from there. So, and before we wrap up, I think we have a Tana executive leadership in our own town here in Raleigh, Suresh Kakarla. So I'd like to quickly ask him to turn on the camera and then just say a few words. Suresh, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, somebody did unmute now. Okay, cool. Good evening, all. Thank you very much for joining this wonderful session and sharing your thoughts and asking questions. So thank you so much, Akina Murthy and others who are all in the leadership, Sudhakar Povada garu and Teneti garu. Thank you so much. We are going to have more programs like this, right, Murthy, in this year?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh. And I would like to also thank finally, for wonderful promotion, by Tata and Tana teams, Tagur Malaneni and Sridhar Goranti and, the rest of the folks. So, if I'm missing any names, please excuse me. But, overall, I think we're looking for, if any of you parents are in this session, and if you're passionate about educating kids, training the youth, that's all we can do, training our next generation. Please feel free to reach out to us. I think we would love to have you on our panels in the future or any other programs that we do. So with that being said, I'd call it a wrap. Thank you everyone for joining the session today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.